1991, a recently divorced woman with 2 sons tested positive for AIDS. Mary Fisher is a political activist, artist, and author. Today we're going to talk about her speech from 1992. Mary Fisher's A Whisper of AIDS was given at the Republican National Convention and has been hailed as one of the greatest speeches of the 20th century. But why? Mary Fisher was one of the first people to speak out about having AIDS. She shifted our thinking about AIDS being just a gay disease. I'm here to discuss with you Fisher's background and the history of the disease, the impact the speech had on the nation, and the rhetorical devices Fisher used to create this speech. First, let's address Fisher's background. She was born April 6, 1948. She was born in Louisville, Kentucky, and has 2 sons, Max and Zach. She found out she had contracted AIDS from her husband, who she'd recently divorced. Now we're going to move on to the history of AIDS itself. According to avert.org, AIDS originated in the Dominican Republic of Congo around 1920 when HIV crossed species from chimpanzees to humans. Now let's fast forward to the 1980s. In June of '82, a group of cases of gay men contracting the disease suggested that it spreads through homosexual acts. And it was then known as gay-related immune deficiency. By September of that same year, it was called what we now know as AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. In '83, it had been found that females who had male partners had also contracted the disease, which shows us that it was passed not only through homosexual sex, but also heterosexual sex. When Fisher gave her speech, it was still considered a gay man's disease, but this thinking shifted across America when Mary Fisher spoke her mind. Now that we've talked about the history of both Mary Fisher and this disease, let's talk about the impact that this speech had on America. This was the first time that AIDS was publicly addressed to this large of an audience, so it instantly left a mark on everyone that saw it. Her main argument was that AIDS could not be silenced any longer and that the world needed to be educated about what it really was and who all it affected. An article by Chip Alfred from A&U Magazine says that Fisher's comments at the Republican National Convention made everyone realize that it's not just a gay man's disease and that everyone needed to join the fight. The same year she gave her speech, she founded Family AIDS Network, which was a support and advocacy group for people that had AIDS and their families, and it just helped them cope with everything that was going on in their lives. Fisher's words encouraged women, men, and children who had this awful disease. The speech brought huge attention because it was just the first time that anyone had ever spoken on it on that type of scale. In 1990, the funds for anything related to AIDS was about $220 million, and it is now over $26 billion according to HIV.gov. Through this change, we can see how much Mary Fisher's words impacted our country's view on how serious AIDS is and that we can't keep silent about it. Okay, so now we've talked about the history and the impact that this speech had, and now we're going to look at the rhetorical devices that she used and how it made her words that much more impactful. Pathos was used most through her speech, though I'm going to quote her speech, and it says that, though I'm white and a mother, I am one with the black infant struggling with tubes in a Philadelphia hospital. Though I am female and contracted this disease in marriage and enjoy the warm support of my family, I am one with the lonely gay man sheltering a flickering candle from the cold wind of his family's rejection. This quote shows how much she cares about those who have to live with this terrible disease. She uses ethos through her credibility. She is a woman of politics, she's a known author, and she herself has this disease, so she's not just speaking out of ignorance. She's actually been through this, and so she can relate and like actually talk about everything that she's been through. She uses logos through her research. She said in her speech that the rate of infection is increasing fastest among women and children. Largely unknown a decade ago, AIDS is the third leading killer of young adult Americans today. After this, she went on to talk about how it's not going to be the third killer for much longer. It's going to get higher on the scale because these young adults will do anything for the ones that they love, you know? So it's not like cancer or heart disease and you fall in love and you do something and you get what they had. It's different with AIDS. So Mary Fisher use of all three devices added so much to her speech through emotion, credibility, logic, and research. We looked at the background, talked about the impact, and reviewed the rhetorical devices used to create this amazing speech. Mary Fisher put everything she could into this speech to make sure that America was not only hearing her, but really listening to her. The speech is truly one of the greatest American speeches. The speech inspired a movement to make AIDS seen as the serious disease that it is, and not just something that we have to stay quiet about because people don't want to hear it. She used the speech to show those who have AIDS that they're not alone and that they have someone that is going through it with them. She used her words to show Congress and the rest of America that this disease cannot be put on mute any longer. She went to the Republican National Convention to end the silence on AIDS, and that's exactly what she did. Thank you.